It's a beautiful day here in João Pessoa, Brazil, and we are 1 week away from my debut album launch. I'm Dennis from Groove Art. I make music while wandering the world. Check the links below for some original music. Next week, my album will go out to the world after lots of work. And I thought I would share some of my learning points that I made along the way. I would have to say that it was a huge amount of work. It was really a lot of work, almost overwhelmingly a lot of work. Detail things like coming up with my grooves, the general feel of the song that I wanted, the harmonies, the melodies, and how everything fits together. It was an incredible amount of work, and I'm kind of glad I didn't know how much work it would be, because it would have been maybe a little too scary. I'm getting ready to continue on and write the next album, but at least I have an idea of what everything is going to take. There were even last-minute things that I thought wouldn't take that long, but they did take a long time and a lot of effort. I probably could have released my album 2 months ago, but things came up. So along with that, one of the things I learned was that you have to kind of stick to your guns with your vision. So there were several times in this project where we recorded whatever it was, drums, bass, singing, and I wasn't really all that happy with it. I mean, it would have been like a bare pass, but it wasn't special to me. And one of the things that I look for in all my work, whether that be photography or music, is energy. I'm looking for a certain type of energy. And if the singing or the drums or the bass line or whatever is lacking in a certain energy that I'm looking for, I've thrown it away. So I've gone ahead and, whoa, just got soaked there. I've gone ahead and fired myself from the singing chair. And I've also fired myself and rehired myself as a drummer on one of my tunes. So that's my point, is that I really wanted to have the energy there that I was looking for. So really kind of sticking to my guns. So while it's a lot of work, because it's a lot of work, it's directly related actually. Because it's a lot of work, it's also incredibly satisfying when I have my product. So I have a full album of 10 songs. As I mentioned before, this is a big dream for me. But all the hard work has paid off, in my opinion, for me. And that is incredibly satisfying to work on something that I love doing and having a final product that's out there to the world now. Well, in 1 week anyway. So that's the reason I do it. The reward is not just the satisfaction that I receive, but it's also the learning. I've learned so much. I have more to learn than what I did learn. As they say, right? The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And that's exactly where I am. So I learned a ton about all the different pieces. I'm a tech guy by nature, by training. But when it comes to music, I kind of avoid the tech because it's getting in the way of me creating. But that's not possible. You have to dive in and dig in. And that's one area that I believe that I've improved, mostly out of necessity. So just learning on that side has been great. Some of the hardships that I went through during this album were technical, and I've resolved some of those. So the learning has been great. Musically, the learning has been even better. And ultimately that's the reason why I do this, is just to learn and get better, become a better musician. Which, by the way, I probably have been. My musicianship is getting better. One of the things I did not expect was that just because I go ahead and write the bass line or the piano line or what have you, or sing it, or the melody, doesn't necessarily mean that I can play it all that well. So what I learned is I gotta practice my songs like any other song. I was really inspired. Right now, Rush is getting ready to go on tour, and they're doing all these YouTube videos and interviews talking about how much they have to rehearse. That made me feel better. I'm not saying I'm anywhere near the Rush level, nor is my music that sophisticated. But I really appreciate them sharing that, because for me, for the little guy, it also does mean that I have to work hard and I have to learn my music. So I had to learn it well enough to be able to play it. I don't play live, but I learned it well enough to perform it on the during the recording. And that was no small feat. So I've gotten better at my instruments, and I've learned what it takes to actually get better. One example, I think I talked about this in my last video, is I drum on one of my songs. It's a song called Keep Your Dreams Alive. And I wasn't happy with my drumming, one of the cases where I fired myself. So I wanted to re-record it. I practiced and recorded myself. Before doing the official recording, I practiced on my own and recorded it about 100 times before I went in for the official recording. So I know that practice helps. Well, it's necessary, absolutely necessary. And that's what it requires. On the first recording of that drum session, I didn't practice at all. I think I practiced about an hour before the recording session, and the results are reflect that. Just had no energy, didn't sound right, sounded like a very beginner drummer, which I kind of am. But the practice and the rehearsing is an absolute necessity for recording, and probably more so for playing live. So that's a huge thing that I learned. Another thing I learned that was not that unexpected, but how ideas come about. The ideas generally start from me. That's where the seed starts. That's also part of the hard work. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the final product. I might start off with 3 simple notes, and from there, the idea develops. But I think where things get really interesting is when the idea develops from other people that are not me, because other people have different perspectives or different ideas, and I love, part of the satisfaction factor is I love having ideas develop that way, where I come up with a shell of an idea, or maybe an incomplete idea, and it inspires an idea in somebody else. That to me is magic, because when I hear it back, what they came up with, and then the next person, it's an unexpected result, and I love that. Really quick example, I talked about this before, is a bridge section in a song that I was getting ready to record the drummer, and I had 8 bars of basically nothing. No bass line, no nothing, just 8 bars of blank. And so I gave him 1 note. I can't remember exactly where I placed it, maybe on 1 and some other beat, and just gave it to him. That's all I had. But in that moment, when we were recording him, we came up with this idea Jason, producer, and Colin, we came up with this idea of a specific feel. And then we built on top of that. Then the guitar player came in and we built on top of that. So that, every time I hear that section, I kind of laugh how it started. It was like literally nothing on recording day. Another thing I learned, which was huge, is how hard I can actually focus when I need to. Because of my travel schedule, I move around a lot, different countries, I'm moving around a lot. So I have a kind of a recording schedule that I need to keep up with. And I learned that I can kind of work the deadlines. So in terms of pressure and deadlines, I learned that I can work to a deadline, not necessarily meet them per se, but they do help on getting me moving and motivated. So when I got here to João Pessoa earlier this year, I had to wrap up my album. I had a lot of loose ends to finish off, and I gave myself a bit of a deadline to release the album, which I missed a little bit, but I knew that deadline was looming, a self-imposed deadline, and I knew I had to get the work done. So there were times when I had to avoid all this and stay inside and work on what had to get done. Which, I've talked about this before, is that sometimes, actually all the time, to get the result that you want, you can't just put, I think with art, you can't just say, okay, in 3 hours, this has to happen. You can to an extent, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. It's art, it's creativity. So it may or may not happen. So that's one thing I learned, is that time in does not necessarily guarantee a result that you want. So I just had to work through it. But deadlines are important. They motivate you, they get you out of bed, and they get you going. Another thing I learned that's valuable is not to give up. There's been several times where I was working on a song and it went through some like 2 or 3 different harmonic changes or revisions and bass line revisions. I was getting really discouraged on how the song was moving along. But now it's actually one of my favorite songs. It's the second track on the album. It's a song called Do What You Love. And that song started off kind of in a strange way. And I remember being in, I think I was in Cabo Frio, Brazil, in the south, and I was working on this song, and I was just about to throw it away. I was stuck, like brutal writer's block, had no ideas, and maybe it's the harmony. It's not conducive to great melodies, I don't know. But so I changed the harmony around, I messed around with bass lines, and at some point I was really stuck. And I do remember that I thought, I don't know what I'm doing here, but let's just throw on a drum machine loop, and that helped me. It's not what ended up being on the final cut, but it did help me keep the composition momentum going. So don't give up. I think that's it. Learned a lot on this project, really happy. I'm really hoping you guys check out the album coming out next week and let me know how I did. I'm Dennis from Groove Art, and I make music while wandering the world. Check the links below for some original music. Maybe by the time you see this, the album will be out. See you in the next one.